Hey everybody, and welcome back. So, what's been in the news, besides, the Iran war, high oil prices, inflation, cost of living going up, cost of food going up, um, is the Alto high speed rail coming from Quebec City to Toronto. With stops of course, Trois Rivières, sorry if I brutalized that, Quebecers, Montreal, Ottawa, Peterborough, and Toronto. So this is an idea that's been floating around since the 80s. And as a nation, as Canada, for the population, for the size of our nation, this is overdue. Now, just give me a minute on this. We are behind China, Europe, Japan, all those countries that have high speed rail. And as a nation, like I stated before, we should have one. Now, there are two sides to this story, the pros and the cons, people who support and people who are against it. Of course, people are for it, are people who live in these cities, people who live along this corridor of the 401, transportation, business leaders, and things like that. Understandable why they'd be for it. And people who are against it, of course, are the farmers, understandably. And they have every right to be wary of the government, this plan, and the concerns for their land and their income. Now, the farmers also have support with technically two major politicians, Doug Ford and Pierre Poilievre. I don't think they're true supporters. Pierre Poilievre is just against it because, of course, it's something that the liberals want to do, and of course, his argument of is it costs too much money, $90 billion. We can do a lot more with it, and then it's potentially not going to pay for itself and not be able to sustain its own operating cost. Through operating costs, won't be able to sustain itself. That the government's going to have to subsidize it. Disagree with that argument because at the end of the day, if that's what you're going by, then the government shouldn't be paying for roads because the upkeep and the construction of new roads should be taken care of by the gas tax. When you go fuel up, the fuel tax you pay is for the upkeep, maintenance of the roads. But it doesn't even come close. And the regions, local governments, federal governments always have to pitch in to make up the difference. So, by his logics, the government shouldn't even be taking care of roads, or the roads shouldn't even be built because they're not self sustaining. Doug Ford's, he's not, he will flip flop on you guys in 2 seconds. As soon as someone goes to him, explains to him the economic benefit to Ontario taxpayers and to the government in terms of taxable income through growth of business and commerce that this line can provide, he'll be a supporter. Prime example is the Toronto Islands, how he's gone through and or he's being a bull in a china shop and is going through with extending the Billy Bishop Airport on the islands. Doesn't care about the residents on the island. And farmers, you are considered those residents on that island, a small minority who are opposed against an idea. Because at the end of the day, his argument is going to be beneficial for Toronto in terms of economics. So he doesn't care about what the residents of the island have to say, just like he won't care about the farmers and what their concerns will be as soon as he's let known about the economic boom that it could be for Ottawa. Now, let's talk about the concerns of the farmers, and they have concerns and they're legitimate. Um, First concern, which goes into the second one, is the route of the line. Sometimes they can go where they're on the border of multiple farms, so they're not taking very much land. Which, even though taking very much land is a problem, but I'll get to that in the second point. What happens when they got to go through the middle of a farmer's land, or 2/3, or a third, or a quarter, whatever it is? Okay, they don't have access to that other portion. A lot of people say, well, why don't they just go around? But you might have 5, 6 neighboring farmers on either side before you get to the main road to go to the backside. And even on the backsides, your farm backs onto another farm. Now, your farm doesn't go directly to next to the main road in the back. So now that portion of that land is landlocked. Because how are you going to get to it? You're going to go through all your neighbors' crops, ruin their produce or their agriculture? No, they won't allow that. So that land is now lost, potentially. Now getting to acquiring that land. So then the government will just take that portion, a third, a quarter, whatever it is, and buy them out. People have to understand today is in order to be a successful farmer, of course, you need a good crop, good yields. The price for the crop has to be good as well compared to what it costs to farm it and grow it. But not only that is it requires more land these days to actually make a profit for the farmer. Like, for example, manufacturing, okay? Say I want to manufacture this stapler, okay? And by the time I produce it and sell it, I make 10 cents a stapler. If I only sold 10 staplers, that's $1. I can't live off that. I'd have to sell hundreds of thousands of them, millions of them to make a profit. It's the same thing with farming, where you only get so much per bushel and what it requires to grow that bushel and everything else. They may only get $5 a bushel in terms of profit. So in order to make a proper living as a family farm and your operating costs and everything else, you have to sell tens of thousands of bushels to just bring in a half decent wage. Okay? It's not like these, what you hear about these stories of these hobby farms. These hobby farms are small, beautiful, great. But those are for tourists, where they make their money, people coming in, buying something fresh, them selling their product above what's in the store, because they're selling an environment, a scene, a feeling, where they'll have trails, animals for the rides for the kids, special things on Canada Day, whatever it is, holidays, fresh baked pies, you know? So that's why they're able to make money. These guys have to just basically grow, sell, and that's it. But they need more land. So if you're taking land away from them, even a small strip of land, that might be enough for make or break for that farm. So even though they got compensated for that land, they will not be compensated yearly for that loss. That's why they're concerned. That's why, like, this idea of appropriating, taking that land and forcing them to get market value, even though they don't want market value, they just want to be able to grow food every year to make money to support their family. That's not enough. So they're afraid that if they're forced to sell that land, they're going to lose the farm anyways. So that's why they're scared. But what I would recommend is the farmers take advantage of this. And let me explain what I mean by that. At the end of the day, business is business. Deals are deals. It doesn't matter if you're farming, doesn't matter if you're manufacturing, doing construction, whatever it is. Business is business. Farmers, guys, you have something that this Alto wants and what the government wants. Okay? No different than as an individual, you have food and you sell me food. You have something that I want. Negotiate this. You have more negotiating power than you do with your agricultural goods. They need this, where if I don't like your price for potatoes, I'll go somewhere else. But Alto has to go to you for your land. They need your land. They need it to be economical in terms of distance. They can't start going everywhere to avoid everybody, because then it'll increase the travel time. They want to make it as direct for cost of construction and for efficiencies when it comes to time, if they want to be able to sell these tickets for people to ride, for business to use for travel, product delivery of products and things like that. So you have an advantage. Now, at the end of the day, there's going to be a stalemate, and the government has the ability to come and appropriate your land and give you market value. So take this time now that you have negotiating skill or negotiating dominance and the ability to use the public, because at the end of the day, they don't want to take your lands. They don't want that image, the government or the company. Go to them with a deal. Do it in multiple different ways. Let's say you sold that plot of lands, okay? Get a lump sum. You take that money and make sure you get a premium for it, okay? You take that money and you invest it into an S&P 500, something where it gives you a return every year, and that return every year will more than enough make up for that lost in crop, so that going forwards, you will not lose any income, and you'll be guaranteed for that plot of lands. You'll at least get money, and then you will not lose the rest of your farm. Or if you don't want to do that, because not a lot of people, I'll be honest with you, when they get a big chunk of money, people spend. They don't know how to save. So what you can do to allow it to be safer for you is they lease that land for you. So they're going to do like a 100-year lease, okay? But what you should do is you take your best year, you calculate it per square foot of that land you're going to take. They lease it for you for that amount. So that's almost like you're still continuing to grow crop on that land. And they're going to give you a check every year for that lease. And you also put it where you get like a 2 or 3% inflation, so that it increases every year. So therefore, you're not going to lose anything. You're just not farming that portion of land, but you're still getting money for it to supplement what you lost. Also, what you should also be doing is making sure they put some sort of road, bridge, underpass, something, so that for farmers that don't have access to that portion of land that was cut off, that you don't have to go around, that you don't have to have that back portion or front portion or whatever it is landlocked, that you still have easy access to it. Negotiate that. Put an overpass, a central overpass for a bunch of farmers to be able to access it. Therefore, you're not losing on travel time, extra fuel, and everything else to get to that other portion of land that was cut off. These are things you can do to not only minimize the loss, but actually come out on top of this deal. And don't listen to those politicians like Pierre Poilievre that are trying to get you on his side and just say, no, 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 just because the liberals are doing it. They're not out there to look for you. Because if they were, they would help you make sure you get compensated correctly. Not just say, no, I'm digging in and I'm not getting anything. Because there are going to be farmers out there that are going to take these ideas or already have these ideas, and they're going to come out on top. And then when you're last on the list, they won't care. They won't care to negotiate with you because they've already made 80%, 90% of the other farmers happy, and they're just going to take your land and give you market value for it and not compensate you any other way. So you should also go united. This is the best way to look out for your farm and your family. Take advantage of this opportunity. Not only be good for you guys, but it would be good for the rest of Canada and in terms of economic and growth and everything else. Well, that's it for me. Let me know in the comments if I missed something potentially harmful for the farmers or another aspect that they could take advantage of to come out on top. Appreciate that in the comments for not only myself to learn, but any other farmers that may be watching that they can take some advice for and help them out. Anyways, guys, take care. We'll talk later.